welcome to another Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we're going to be talking all about Season 19, as well as Rare's anniversary for the 8th year in a row. There's a lot to get into, so pirates, we're going to cut things short on this intro because we got to get into it. But before we get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons. They're the ones that went over to patreon.com/Keelhauled podcast to show their support, and it helps take care of the bills. If not for them, I would have a lot harder time paying for the software I use and for the equipment I usually have to upgrade when it comes to making this podcast. So I appreciate their help with that, and I appreciate just their support and their patronage. So as such, I always like to call out their names for each episode. So thank you to A-Chick, L-Cute, Balls, Blue Turtle V1, Captain Chonky, Chateau Noof, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, Crazy Frog, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Godhammer 6, Jeff H., Carl Embo of Embo Family Gaming, Kylia the Aficionado, Elvin Vramir, Evil Morpheus, Xbox Mike 29, Space Admiral Oars, Rabid Raccoon, Blue Crab, Reaps Revenge, Regis Stella the Brony Pirate, Ribloid, Rustbelt Kid, Sea Leg Sam, Shoe Daddy 13, Scamelt 666, Tales of the Sea, The Demon Jester, Tommy D, TN Professor, Wailing Witch, Wild Hog Murph, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Hagar Owl, Jeff H, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Luke Lord the Insipid Ghost, and Wow. Appreciate you guys all so much. Every time I get to read these out, it always makes me happy because I know that you guys are listening. You guys are having a good time. I hope you guys are having a good time. But anyway, with that, pirates, let's get into it. First on today's docket, let's dive into Season 19 as they have completely overhauled Hourglass of Fate, or as we just call it, Hourglass, or if you're just typing it, it's just HG, or if you're really upset, you're just going to call it that mode that you don't like and needs to be fixed because there's too many hackers. Yeah. But there's a lot that's going on with that, and I'm actually really glad that they've gone back to this. Having actually jumped in this weekend for a little bit during the fight nights, which thankfully there is another fight nights coming down the line. So if you missed out this weekend, don't worry, there is another opportunity to be able to do this. That's going to start from April 10th through the 13th. So this is one of those ones where you had to play and you had to get 3 wins during fight nights to be able to get the Fallen Sea Dog jacket. As of the recording, that time has passed for the first opportunity. The second opportunity is going to be from April 10th through to April 13th. So definitely keep an eye out for that, especially if you're trying to get some of these limited time cosmetics. It really is frustrating because it's asking you to get 3 wins. I think Witch and Godhammer and we went, what was it? I think like 9 and 5 or something. I can't quite remember, but one of them was like an instant sync. And I think we did 2 more wins and I didn't get it. But then we did 3 wins after that and I got it. So technically those insta syncs did not feel like it actually contributed to the progress for that. But thankfully, thanks to their thanks to them basically carrying me, I was able to get my Fallen Sea Dog jacket, which I'm really grateful for because it's hard when you only have like 1 or 2 weekends during the season to be able to get this, and they only offer it during that weekend. A lot of people busy during the weekends, especially with spring break coming up. A lot of parents having to take care of their kids, wanting to go on vacations, to go someplace nice and warm, to be able to enjoy some of the weather, and get a break from the winter. And it's, again, just one of those sad things. It's like, it really sucks when they do some of these FOMO things and you can't really like participate. So thankfully, it's one of those things where I've had a good community. I've got some very nice folks that reach out to me and check and see like if I want to sail, if I have opportunity to sail. If I can, I definitely try to. But thankfully, the Hourglass fights that I did were good. It's interesting. I don't know if it's because I know that there's always going to be value, or I don't have to worry about supplies, that there's always going to be a flag, or that there's a time limit. I've got all of the deeds for Act 1 in the, let's see, we started at 1 and I think we ended at 4. So it was like 3 hours of sailing this weekend. And out of all of that, managed to get all of the deeds done except for I think the last one. I think the last deed was the only thing that I couldn't actually complete, and the one that is seems to me is actually the hardest, pertains to being able to survive the last circle, the final circle in a faction battle. I've yet to see what that final circle looks like. But I mean, we're going to get into it. Definitely. We're going to get into it. But right off the bat, I have to say, doing Hourglass, knowing that there's a time limit, effectively, knowing that I'm going to get supplies, knowing that I'm going to get a flag out of it if I win, knowing that the downtime after a fight, after a loss, is cut short by being able to vote for a rematch, to kind of reduce the amount of time or opportunity it's going to be to run into the same person. I think these are all really good wins. I think they're really, really nice to bring to Hourglass, because I think that from my experience, when I play a lot of other games that are PvP based games, when I lose, I don't want to be reminiscing on that. I don't want to be sitting there thinking about what I could or couldn't have done, or how angry I am about it, or how much I really wanted to win, or how dumb it was that the loss happened. That's not something that I want to linger on, right? I want to be like, okay, you know what? That it was a loss. Nothing I can do about it. It's in the past. Let's get right back into it. And because of that, I want to make sure that, like, if I'm going to lose, just do what I need to do to get back into the fight quickly. That's all I ask. So, and I think that the vote to rematch is a pretty good way of having that. I think that's a good way to try and give you that opportunity to get right back into a fight, right? And I think that that's important. In fact, I was talking while I was playing with Witch and Godhammer, and I was actually thinking, like, I wish I know that there's a certain amount of time, like after you get sunk, after you gong, there's a certain amount of time where you could be like, oh, okay, you can talk to whoever you want and stuff. And sometimes those can lead to really good interactions with the other crew. Everyone says GG. It's nice. You play music. Sometimes, like one of the crews that I went up against, I anchor balled them, and it legitimately was just like that destroyed their match. The anchor dropped. They came into a hard spin. We circled around them. We killed them. And one of the guys on there was a gold pirate curse. He was a gold highlighter. And you could tell after they sank and they were sitting in the water, they were not too, like, the number of eye of reach shots coming across our broadside was very evident that they were not very happy with what was going on. They clearly felt like they were cheated out of a win or a fight that they had felt confident about. But I'm going to be perfectly honest. When it comes to PvP, I don't care what tools you have. I don't care what tools I have. I'm going to use the tools that are available to me to be able to get those wins. That's more important to me, right? So with that being said, let's get into the show notes a little bit, because I feel like the patch notes came out and a lot of this is stuff that we already kind of knew going into it, but let's just kind of talk about what they did add and put in the actual patch notes. So I like that the faction battles now have the battle bounds. At first I wasn't sure like how this was going to look. Like I'd seen it in Insiders, but I hadn't seen like the final version of it. The big clouds, the big like kind of shrouding looking thing, I like it. I think it's good. It kind of helps me have an idea visual of like where we're going to be at. I don't know how it looks to everyone else outside of a battle. So that could be an issue, you know, like getting third partied in Hourglass back in season 9 was not too uncommon. Hell, is not too uncommon nowadays, but with the battle bounce being there, it's like I can't really see what other ships are going on. And of course, Fern wants to come over. Hi, Motion Changer. I was just kind of, you know, not quite sure like how that must look, but I do like that I can kind of see where the boundaries are. Although I have yet to really pay close attention to them, which I think is a big issue with just like fights in general, especially with like in PvP, you tend to get kind of zeroed in on what you're doing. And you can't really process all the information that's going on around you. If you can, that's where, you know, you can actually get really good at the game. But I did like the fact that that crews can actually like hear and know when the battle bounds are actually going to be changing. I think it happened once out of the fights that we did, where it actually took a little bit longer. And I actually, you know, it was nice. I was like, oh, okay, this is what it will be like. I appreciate that. It's enough information to give me a heads up, so that I know what's going on. And I'm not going to be like confused about what's going to happen. It was actually worked really, really well. So, I like the fact that on certain instances where the crew is pledging to a faction and making a defensive stand on high seas, rivals will now find that they are located nearby or purposefully hidden within the bounds of an island. The shrinking battle bounds will consistently force them further out into open waters for the final battle. So essentially what you should hopefully run into is fewer and fewer people using islands to kind of prop up their boat so that it becomes unsinkable since it doesn't despawn, and gives you an opportunity to actually have like that battle. And I hope that works as intended, because, you know, every time they come out with a patch, you hope that things are working as the patch notes indicate. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes people figure out ways around it, but I have yet to hear of anyone anecdotally saying that they've run into this, which is great, because I think that, you know, falls more in line with what the intent behind Hourglass is. And I know it's always that argument about like, tools, not rules. Use what you can to get the win. But if you're not able to be sunk, then that's not exactly a fair scenario, right? Like if you can win and your ship is just as vulnerable to being sunk as the other person, regardless of what you do during that battle, I think that at least opens the door for the discussion to say like, okay, well, if your ship is on an island and you can't get it, you can't sink it, that's not exactly falling within the agreement of the Hourglass fight, right? So I do like that. The other thing that I really like is the storage crate. Now I've seen, I don't know how much of a problem this is going to be. And shout out to A Chick who actually brought up the concern. I'm very curious to kind of see how these faction storage crates are going to impact server integrity. I think that it's fair that looking at what they give you is a very good balance of what you would want to have going into an actual Hourglass fight. And I've actually been really impressed with the fact that you can literally load up a boat. You don't even have to put up a flag, but you just have to vote for the faction that you want. You sail out. As soon as you load into a fight, there's a storage crate that appears on your top deck, and it has a very good stock of supplies. You have your emissary flag. The barrier to entry to get into Hourglass is raised, but when you're actually diving, that barrier to entry, as far as like supplies or concerns about like faction rewards, flags, things like that, is completely removed. The pain of having to deal with that or feel like you need to have a certain amount of supplies is good. Once you win one, there's a good chance that you'll get the supplies that they had. And if it hasn't been a long fight, then you're probably good to go for the next fight. You probably don't need to actually go like resupply or anything like that. And even if you did, you could still dive and you would just get another crate, which for all intents and purposes, that is a good way to go about it. level the playing field so that everyone has roughly the same amount of supplies going into a fight, regardless whether or not they're a fresh spawn or they've been playing for the last 4 to 10 hours and seriously need a shower. But that is a fantastic change. I really, really appreciate that. It's cute that they put little factions on them so you can see, like, you're like, ooh, I don't want to touch that one. That's the opposing faction. Get the stuff out of it and then throw it overboard. I don't want it on the boat. It's cute. It's not a big deal, but I do think that is nice. They did say that a faction storage crate will be provided that resupplies the resources for any item found under the threshold. Just to kind of like clarify, like if they find out that you are under the threshold for whatever is in the barrels and the storage crates, players' inventory, loaded cannons, all of that gets tallied up, and then it decides like what the minimum is, and then it decides if you're below that, they give you a storage crate full of stuff. If not, then you're good to go. So I like that, because it's showing a sense of engineering and design behind these storage crates that really does kind of speak to, hey, we really did want to pay attention to just how many supplies you have, not just what's in your barrels, because you may not use your barrels, and not just what's in your storage crate, because your storage crate may be empty. Like, we wanted to take everything into account, and I really like that. So now when you're going around on an outpost, Wailing Witch made a really good point. You really only have to go looking for chain shots, pineapples, and cursed cannonballs. Everything else is fairly well stocked, and you don't really have to pay close attention to that. And that's a fantastic change. That is a really quality of life that should have been in Hourglass a much earlier stage in its lifespan. And I'm really glad that they've decided to do that. Then you go into the whole like automatically raising the emissary flag. So crews entering a faction battle using the Hourglass of Fate will now have an emissary flag raised automatically on behalf of their faction, reducing the time needed to prepare for battle at the blah, 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 blah. You get the point. It's nice. It's nice to finally go into fights in Hourglass and know that if you win, you're getting at least one flag out of that, which that is a big part of the actual battles. And just case in point, the small amount of time that I sailed this weekend to be able to actually like work on some levels, experience the new Hourglass, get a feel for it before I actually sat down to talk about the podcast, or talk on the podcast, it's really nice. I like knowing that during the fight nights where it's a double reputation, right? We did Athena because crew very generous in their time, willing to work on Athena for me, not for anyone else, just for me. They already had their gold curses. They didn't need to be running Athena, but they did for me, and I appreciate that. So I went from I believe I started at level 28, and I think by the end of the night I got up to level 35, which for the maybe 4 hours that we played, pulling in 7 levels really does kind of show, like, I would prefer if Hourglass, as much as I don't like Hourglass, I would really prefer if Hourglass had the double reputation, and that was something that it would be like that baseline. The baseline for it feels good. It feels like measurable progress, and the way the system's set up now with the flag, it really does change things. I don't necessarily need the gold. The gold is actually very nice, though. I will say that. What I will tell Rare is they really need to back off on the weekends only kind of thing and allow players who don't work a 9-to-5 bank job to be able to play and have fight nights. For the souls out there that stay up during the weekends on call or working over the weekend because it's retail or fast food or health care, any of those, any job that is not beholden to the 9-to-5 Monday through Friday crew, the folks that are working on salary, let's take a moment to kind of address the elephant in the room and say, hey, I know you guys may not necessarily work on the weekends, but a lot of people do. And that means that there's a lot of folks that, unfortunately, unless they're taking time off or working late or trying to schedule stuff to try and eke out some wins for some of these FOMO items that are coming out, it would be much better if fight nights were not a fight night, but a fight week. And let's just have fight week. And it can be, and I'm going to be real honest here, the number of times Rare has missed out on the opportunity to do a week-long event called Shark Week, I don't even have to say it. I don't even have to tell you guys, but you already know. So what I would say is let's try to move closer to the mindset of, if we're going to be working on these kind of events, let's try and open them up, much like in the same way that we've started to do with Twitch drops. I think Twitch drops have done very, very well in a whole week's worth of time. You know, it's 6 hours. It's a week worth of time. You do 1.15 hours a day. I think it equals out to, I don't know. I'm not going to math it. But you do an hour or so a day for a week watching a streamer who has Twitch drops, and you get all of the Twitch drops. And not all of the Twitch drops are going to be amazing, but at least you're getting progress towards those. And I would really like it, especially, you know, what was it, season 16? I think it was season 16, season 15, during last June, into July, when they had that fight week going on. I really enjoyed that. It was hard, but I appreciated the fact that I had the whole week. So if I wasn't feeling it one night, say I had 3 losses in a row, and general rule of thumb, I will say, if you have 3 losses in a row and things feel off, take a break. Give yourself a break. Give yourself that opportunity to mentally reset. Go do something else for a little bit, or come back to it later on, or choose a different day. So that way you're not necessarily feeling like you're beating your head against the wall. It's tough, I know, but you have to recognize that sometimes there are just nights that are not going to be a good night for you to fight. And that is something I carry across multiple games. Whenever I'm playing Heroes of the Storm, if I'm playing a couple quick matches and I start getting into my 3rd, 4th, 5th loss, I switch. I pop over to something else. I do some other game, because whatever is going on in my brain and in my body and in my perception, I am not making the right choices to help contribute to a win. And instead of frustrating myself, instead of tanking my night, I switch over to something else. And I think that having a fight week, allowing people to be able to jump into Hourglass a little at a time, especially if they're trepidatious about the mode, have had issues in the past, whether it be toxicity or cheaters or bad server issues with desync on the water, or the people that they're playing with are also just having a rough night. Giving a week instead of 2 split weekends may be a better route to go. So I'd be curious to hear if you prefer 2 separate weekends, or if you'd like to have a whole week kind of set aside. Kudos to Rare, though. I will say, allowing people to know like what weekends they're going to be ahead of time, much appreciated. That is the kind of communication I prefer out of the studio. I like to know when things are going to happen. It would be even better if Rare actually had what World of Warcraft does, which I actually really love, is there's a calendar. And this could be something that you actually have in the tavern. I think it'd be really kind of cool to actually have these in taverns. But, or, you know, here's a crazy idea. Put them up on the message boards. Have a calendar on the message board that actually shows you like, hey, this is the month. These are the events. These are the times that these events are going to be running. You can actually see when golden hour is. You can bring back Fight Night Fridays, and actually have, you know, like some regularity to this. Have stuff kind of in game. You know, Rare does a lot of promoting of their stuff on the front end and between like loading screens and stuff like that. But it would be fantastic if something was like a quick reference guide in game that just automatically updated based on whatever events were actually programmed into the game ahead of time. You know, we have the deeds, we have the seasons, but for whatever reason, those may or may not be going. It's interesting that season 19 is kind of going to be the last instance. Yeah, we'll go with instance. the last instance that we may see of the 3-act scenario with seasons, as we're still waiting. We have to wait till the 30th, I believe, for the community direct from Rare, where they're going to be talking a bit more about the future of seasons and content delivery and the promises they keep making that, for all intents and purposes, they say they keep missing the mark. I'm not going to say anything more about that. I think I've shared my opinions on how they've been developing content for a while now and what I prefer, so I won't rehash that conversation. But I like the idea of having this kind of regular basis. Like they've talked about the Bilge Rat Weekenders. They want to have those as something that are going to be brought in as a regular basis. They want these events. Let's think about starting to use that message board for more than just NPC based quests and the few folks that are working on commendations for guilds or for the Adventures of Sea, where they're posting up stuff on there to kind of check off a box, right? Let's make that a little more useful, because right now it's not too useful. And I think that you could definitely go about making that useful and allowing players to have like a way to see what is going on in the game. Because there's a lot of people that don't follow social media, and to be perfectly honest, I don't blame them, because social media can be a very, very bad rabbit hole to dive down into. So a lot of people just log into the game that they've been playing for years, which, shout out to Rare, 8 years as of March 20th. Congrats. And they just want to go play. How many times have you guys run into someone that doesn't know what's going on in the actual game, like what the current season is, what the latest events are, the new commendations? Like, they don't pay attention to that. It's not their bag. They just want to log in and shoot some cannons, sink some ships, and turn in some treasure. That is like their bag. But if you bring in something like a message board that shows like, hey, these are the events that are going on, you could decorate it. You could put little, put little crossed swords. You could, I'll tell you, it would be really cool. Here's how I know Rare is actually like thinking ahead and going big brain with this. Bring in Murray or the Captain's Skull and have the message board be something that is less annoying than Lorena being like, hey, come over here, I have something to tell you, and actually just be like, did you know it's here? And it'd be like, why, what's here, Murray? What do you got? He's like, there's a lot of pirates going around out there sinking other ships. You might want to play around with that fancy hourglass on your table. Just have some fun with it. That's some of the joy that comes with Sea of Thieves and that kind of air of a pirate adventure. And it'd be nice to have Rare kind of embrace that in ways that are actually like quality of life. Quality of life for the game is really the thing that's going to allow this game to continue to endure hard times when there's low content or bad bugs. Bringing in quality of life changes to inform players, to educate players about what's going on in the game without necessarily having to rely on one person at the tavern who yells at you to try and flag you down every time you're trying to run one of the 12 items up to George to be able to turn into for Athena's fortune, because for whatever reason you you lost captaincy and you couldn't use the sovereigns, or the sovereigns have shown their true hand and you don't really trust them anymore because it's all going to be tied to not the East India Trading Company. What is it? Why am I blanking on what they're called? The Grand Maritime Union. I was going to get there. I appreciate you yelling at your radio, though. I appreciate that at some level you were like, it's the Grand Maritime Union. I know this. If this were a Jeopardy question, I'd be rich. I know this. I appreciate that you guys were doing that, but I got there. I got there at the end. So talked about the faction battles, talked about the requeue. Really appreciate that. Still think it could be a little bit quicker. To be perfectly honest, I think it could be a little bit quicker. I don't necessarily like to wait when I'm anxious to get into another fight after losing and want to get another win under my belt, because serotonin levels are low and I need that dopamine hit, I guess. I don't know. There's only so much chocolate can fix in the world, but having the requeue maybe be a little bit faster, I think would be nice. I think I would prefer that. I do like the timer on it that says, hey, if you don't requeue within X amount of time, you're just going to spawn at an outpost or an island. You know, I like that because it doesn't leave you hung up waiting for someone who went AFK because you lost and you're like, okay, finally, bathroom break, get it. So overall, I will say short amount of time invested in it, but understood the changes based on insiders, based on reading patch notes, watching videos, getting to experience it a little bit. I think this is one of the best quality of life updates that they've done for Hourglass and for PvP that I've seen them do in a while. And I'm very happy for that. I think that this was something that desperately was needed a long time ago. I'm happy it's here now. I think that it's good. They needed to do this. I'm glad that they did it. I'm glad that they are expanding that with Act 3 with Last Ship Standing, because I only got to do one battle in Last Ship Standing, and I think that is going to be something that will eventually turn into an option in Hourglass. I think that eventually we will have 2 options on the map, and you're going to be able to dive to Last Ship Standing, or you're going to be able to dive to just a one-on-one fight. And to be perfectly honest, make this a mode. Make this a mode in Adventure. I'm not saying like separate from Adventure, but allow people to be able to queue up for multiple ship battles, and allow players to say like, hey, I want to queue up for an Hourglass fight, but I don't want to fight against the crew, like one other crew. I would feel better if there were 2 crews versus 2 crews, and then have a way to be able to queue up for duo crews. I think that would be very interesting. I think that would be something that Rare could look at and explore in the future, and actually see like, hey, is this a way that we could actually start to support bigger sized fights that occur to give players an opportunity to decide like, hey, is this something that's actually going to train me later on in, like in the future when I do want to actually dive into Last Ship Standing? Is this a good tool? And eventually I think that the long game of this is to give players an opportunity for Rare to be able to work in AI ship fights. Training modes in PvP games is a great way to test, to experiment, to learn, to get like experience with. That is something that I think, outside of skeleton ships, and mostly skeleton ships, there aren't too many ways for players to really get into PvP fights with other crew, or without having to get put up against another crew member or another crew. And while I don't necessarily think that is necessary right now, I do think that there is a page to be written in the book of Sea of Thieves that allows for players who want to have that kind of training experience. And there doesn't need to necessarily be anything tied to it. Nothing like, it doesn't need to be something that's like, oh, this is going to be how you get rewards for PvP. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying allow players to have a way to fight another ship in kind of a skirmish that is low stakes and gives players an opportunity to learn a little bit more before having to jump into Hourglass. Matchmaking aside, I do think the matchmaking works. I do think that you do generally run into balanced crews. I know, like, just anecdotally this weekend, we fought the one crew that had the gold highlighter, which is the golden ghost curse for those that aren't watching streamers all the time, shoot out. And thankfully, we killed them, but we sank them, and they were not the hardest crew that we fought. One of the hardest crews that we fought were actually, I think one of them might have been a streamer. I can't quite remember. It was all kind of a blur, but it was actually a pretty decent fight, and it was pretty evenly matched, and we almost lost. And it just came down to a couple really crucial kills that managed to secure the win, because we were very close to sinking. They apparently were just a little bit more closer to sinking. So I think that as of right now, I would say this first update and the lead up to try and push people into PvP has been very well done. The fight nights are a good way to drive engagement. I don't necessarily like the Fallen Sea Dog jacket thing. I understand why they're doing it. Not a fan. That is not something that I think is a good way to bait your community into playing the game. I think if you make the game good and you make the game available, players will come. Make Hourglass fun, make Hourglass something that's enjoyable, and people will go check it out. If you have to do something where you're tying cosmetics to it, I feel like that's a little too much of a bait, in my personal opinion. Now, I know it's going to work. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm not liking the fact that they're using that because it works, if that makes sense. And speaking of which, is a kind of a shame, but I heard that one of the other big streamers, there's been a few that have been trying to jump into Sea of Thieves lately. And these are folks that have, like in the double digits, thousands of viewers, would bring a lot of attention to Sea of Thieves. And for whatever reason, there is a subsect of people who play Sea of Thieves and want to try and destroy it. And I don't know why. I don't know what it is about their, I don't know who hurt them, where they were touched. I don't know anything about what's going on with like who harmed them emotionally in their life to make them think that going after streamers and DDoSing a server or stream sniping them is going to make you feel better about yourself. And if it does, there's something sick with you. Please seek help. It's the meme, like stop, get help. Because they went and if you guys aren't familiar, I was talking about it in the Discord. I didn't go watch the VOD. A lot of folks clip things and I watched some of the clips, but if you're not familiar, there's a streamer out there who uses a Instagram filter to look like a peanut with just the eyes and the mouth. Think of that. I can't remember the name of the YouTuber, but he was like a orange. I think he was an orange. Maybe he might have been a banana. I don't know. But there was he uses a filter and he's called the Burnt Peanut. And when Arc Raiders came out, he swapped over from, I think it was Tarkov, and started to get a lot of popularity. Did a lot of funny things, did a lot of things to kind of like engage with players on a server, was very loud, very boisterous, entertaining. Think wrestler, right? And he's been switching over to Marathon and he's been playing other games and stuff like that. And he decided that he was going to go and give Sea of Thieves a chance. Now, I know that when he's playing other games, he typically runs games with streamer mode so that your gamer tag doesn't get shown. And unfortunately, he didn't think about the fact that the gamer tag that he has might be showing on the game at some point before he actually gets into a server. So after a while, people were able to find out what his gamer tag was, and they were able to find him on servers. Now, I don't know how all this works. I don't pretend to know how all of this works, but I do know that it does work. There's ways for people to see who's playing on what server. And as such, they can then kind of go and DDoS these servers. A lot of people out there with a lot of effort and a lot of time on their hands and need to feel something in that void in their life that they just, for whatever reason, is empty. And as a result, they basically shut down any opportunity for the Burnt Peanut to play and engage with Sea of Thieves and enjoy it. And this is not the first time. This is actually one of the most recent in a few opportunities where big streamers have decided on their own like choices, like their own I can't think of the word I want. Have decided, decided on their own. That's how you say it, Logan. That's how it goes. They've decided on their own accord. I got there. They decided on their own accord that they wanted to go play Sea of Thieves, not by help with Rare, not Rare's community team reaching out to big streamers to maybe like try and give them some sort of information, set up a stream and a time and give them some advice on things to be aware of. No, the streamers want to play a game. They pick a game and they go and play it. And before anyone has an opportunity to give them any kind of heads up about, like, hey, these are the modes that you want to turn on. These are the things you want to avoid. You want to hide your screen when you're doing this, so that by the time you get into the game, you're not going to get harassed as easily as you would if people knew like what your gamer tag was and were able to try and find you on Sea of Thieves. Well, unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. Didn't seem to last very long, and unfortunately he quit the game and basically deemed it unplayable for streamers. I'm not going to say unplayable for people because we play it all the time, but definitely unplayable for streamers, which is not necessarily the case, because we see on a regular basis a lot of the Sea of Thieves partners and partner legends, a lot of the Bilge Rat team, they play the game a lot. Do they run into stream snipers? Yes. How do they handle it? They generally leave servers. They usually hide their screens. They usually hop on to a different person's ship and don't really broadcast a lot of information, making it harder for people to determine like what's actually going to happen. There's still some things that can't get hidden or changed to make it a little bit easier so that there is a little bit more anonymity there. But at the end of the day, it's rare can only do so much, and streamers should do a little bit to kind of like ensure that they're taking proper precautions, especially when you're pulling in upwards of 40,000 people watching you live. It's basically a pretty good concert's worth of people. I don't know how big 40,000 people is. Is that like a stadium? I don't know how big. I don't do sports. How big are stadiums? Actually, I've got to look at this. Let's see. Anaheim, California stadium seating capacity. How many? 45,000. Yeah. So there you go. Okay. So the Angel Stadium in Anaheim, which is the only one that I really ever think about, is 45,000 people. That's not uncommon for Peanut. That's not uncommon for Peanut to pull in those kind of numbers. So when you're sitting there and you have the opportunity to have a stadium's worth of people coming to watch your game, it really hurts that is going to like harm people more than anything. Like there's a broadcast yesterday that was his. The number of views on there, 992,000, almost 1 million viewers on a broadcast stream for one person. So I'm not saying it has to be him. I'm just saying it's not good for the community to keep hamstringing this game with bad actors who just want to go out and be jerks. And that's a shame. Do better, be better. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours. All you have to do is decide, do I want people to come to the game? Are there going to be fresh blood on the seas for us to go after? Are there going to be new opportunities to meet people and have adventures on Sea of Thieves? Yes. Will bringing in a big streamer to allow that to happen be better for the game? Yeah. Are we going to run into another situation where we have like with Summit 1G, where things just get really toxic for a while because of the type of gameplay that he does? Maybe. It's very possible. But I think we should really, as a community, especially 8 years into this game, really kind of address and kind of say like, hey, you know what? Let's not hack. Let's not cheat. Let's not exploit. Let's try to play the game as intended for the sake of having a positive, welcoming community. And if an opportunity rises where a streamer wants to bring in a large number of people, maybe give that opportunity to them to be able to say like, hey, Sea of Thieves is worth actually giving attention to. Maybe if that happens, the game will actually bring in some more people and it won't get shut down because Microsoft decides, oh, well, it's only been pulling in around 3,000 viewers on Twitch on any given night or any given week. And if they're not going to be able to pull in the numbers and we haven't seen any growth in the Emporium sales, maybe this studio isn't necessarily cutting it. Maybe they need to switch over to something else, or they get relegated back to what they were, which was just a support studio. And I'd rather not see that. I would rather that not be the case. It would be a lot nicer if Sea of Thieves could make it to 10 years. So Not saying that this is directed to anyone in particular listening to this podcast, because I think anyone listening to this podcast who's actually using these kind of cheats or exploits probably isn't actually listening to the podcast. So I'm not too worried about it. But man, it is frustrating when the only thing you really want to do is just see the game succeed so that the devs have an opportunity and the funding to be able to actually like continue building the game, you know? So it's a shame. It's just a real shame, but that's enough of that. Let's get back into the news. Going back to the patch notes, they did change the faction requirements to be able to actually play in Hourglass, which I think was very necessary. And we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I did want to bring it up just for the sake of posterity. New players are now required to complete a set of high sea adventures activities before their crew is eligible to participate in faction battles or Hourglass with rival crews, establishing a greater time investment before players unlock access to on-demand battles. All players or members of a crew are now required to complete the maiden voyage and the tutorial voyages for Gold Hoarders, Order of Souls, and Merchant Alliance, and reach rank 25 with the Reaper Bones during high seas play, which is ironic because you can't actually increase Reaper's Bones on safer seas. So high seas is the only way to increase that. Previous techniques used to skip maiden voyage or trade company tutorial voyages are no longer possible, requiring players to complete these fully before they can become eligible. Veteran players will find that they have retained their access to faction battles following this update, even if they have not completed all of the entry requirements. These new requirements have been established for any new players or new accounts starting their journey on the seas. So what this means is that effectively anyone that has been playing the game since before season 19 will already be grandfathered in to having access to Hourglass. Anyone that's fresh is going to have to cut their teeth in the game before they have the opportunity to actually go do this. One of the issues that I run into is that just completing the tutorial voyages for the three main factions, I don't think is enough. To be perfectly honest, I feel like you need to be able to raise an emissary flag for them to be able to justify having enough time on the seas before you jump into that. Do I think that that will hurt matchmaking and that it will lower the player pool of people who have access to Hourglass? Yeah. Am I really concerned about that right now? No, I think I would rather have the barrier to entry be a little bit higher to get into Hourglass, and then the enjoyment of Hourglass being a lower barrier of entry. So like things like supplies, flags, quick rematches, all of that I think is the way to kind of make the barrier to entry to playing Hourglass better. But I would rather there be a little bit more of a hill going up so that players kind of like, they know what they're getting. They have to pay attention. They have to play adventure. You have to go out and play adventure if you want to actually get that. I think getting rank 25 in Reaper's Bones is honestly, it's very easy. I mean, they take everything. Everything counts. So all you have to do is go do a bunch of Fort of Fortunes, or not Fort of Fortunes. What are they called? Fort of the Dams. And you could probably get to 25 fairly quickly, which to me does not feel like a big enough thing. I would rather people have to run their loot to and from the faction champion or the faction folks on the outpost, the trade companies, for a while, and then, you know, like maybe they get a cap. I mean, I guess technically you could do a couple. You could do this is really dumb. You could go do an hour or a skeleton camp and a skeleton fortress and earn enough gold to be able to get like oh no, wait, it's 250,000 for a sloop, isn't it? So yeah, you couldn't do just one camp. You have to earn a little bit of gold to be able to get a captainship. Okay, yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, so they would have to go get a certain amount of gold to be able to go get a captainship to be able to then actually start turning in loot a little bit faster. But there's a little bit of gatekeeping there that I think would help prevent players from looking at ways to jump into Hourglass to cheat right away. And I do like the 25 on Reaper's Bones, but I think I would have been okay if they had bumped it up so that it's like level 10 or level 15 for the 3 trade companies beyond just the tutorial voyages. I don't think that is as big of an ask. But at least there's a way for us to kind of like have something that kind of prevents people from being able to get into Hourglass with a fresh account and plenty of hacks. So I appreciate that. And glad that Hammer didn't have to worry about completing the maiden voyage. Because for whatever reason, he didn't ever do it and doesn't want to ever have to do it out of just pure choice, I guess. I can't remember. The other thing that actually came up, that I didn't remember was actually coming live with this was the, allegiance rewards. So for the Guardians of Fortune and the Servants of the Flame Allegiant rewards, they've now got those ship champion flame figureheads, the flag, the sails, the hull, the jacket, the gloves, the hat, the skeleton stuff, the war paint, the pledge of the chalice emote and pledge of honor emote. All of that is now live and can now be earned in levels 1 through 100, which I'm very happy for, because again, there was nothing from 1 to 100. It was like, you're just going to have to find out. And there's not like there's no number that tells you where, like, what to get. So if you're like, okay, well, I'll have to get 1 to 50. It's like, well, no, that's not going to get you anything. And it's like, okay, well, what about 75? No, 75 doesn't get you anything anyway. Now you can at least like go get stuff when at level from level 1 to 100. And I appreciate that. And I did talk about that a while ago about what the ranks were, but I'm forgetting what they are, but they are kind of like spaced out oddly. The one question I have is if you do get stuff for ranks 1 through 100, you can't, as far as I know, and I haven't tested this out because I'm already level 100 with the Servants of Flame. There's no way to actually see what those are if you're not a pirate legend, which in this instance you wouldn't have to become a pirate legend to actually get access to Hourglass. But you wouldn't be able to get access to these unless you could go down into the layer, as far as I know. Now they may be with the servant. They may be with Junior. So if that's the case, and I just haven't had a chance to go check, then at least that's a nice way to be like, hey, these are the rewards that you're going to get. And then when you hit 100, they'll actually like, I think they actually prompt you to go down into the layer. I think they do. I can't remember. It's actually been a hot minute. Yeah. It's been since like June since I got my curse. So I can't actually remember how it goes, but I know that, having something for these levels is definitely going to be better than nothing at this point, because they need to like have the carrot on the stick for folks to kind of understand there is a progress reward to this, is as long as you can see it. But I can't even remember if you can actually see it. They did talk a little bit about some of the commendation improvements, as well as a range of commendations that challenge crews to battle rivals using the Hourglass of Fate have been updated to allow players to progress during a fight for honor against the same faction as well too. This is one where a lot of people were having a lot of trouble fighting opposite factions because of what people wanted to work towards for their faction. So I'm glad that they changed some of those and allowed players to actually be able to get progress on those, aside from just against the other faction, if that makes sense. So very happy about that. I'm actually looking to see if they put this in the show notes before I talk about it, but it doesn't look like they did. I see some of the changes that they made. They did some changes for players on Xbox Series X using 60 Hertz mode should now find improvements to the quality of visuals across the experience. They talked about the new outpost stock, lifetime doubloon reward that we talked about last week. Those, oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. Lorena now has the doubloon cosmetics for the hoarder reset that's going to happen on April 16th. So you have until April 16th to go buy your title, your belt, your eye patch, and your sails. After the 16th, they're going to work some sort of magic to determine who's actually earned 50,000 worth of doubloons, and then award the sword to whoever has. It looks like they will find these items purchased on their behalf and delivered to their cosmic. Oh, that's if you didn't actually go buy what you wanted. Effectively, they will say that the most expensive one will be delivered to your chest. Regarding the sword, players who hoarded a significant number of doubloons in their account lifetime may be eligible for an additional cosmetic reward, the doubloon hoarder cutlass. Players who collected over 50,000 doubloons in their lifetime earnings by April 16th will be issued this fine prize as part of their future game update. I really hope this takes into account people who have bought gold as a result, because I think that we've talked about this in the past. It's really annoying that they're saying, hey, for those of you who have hoarded the doubloons, you get the benefit of it, even though it's been a dead currency for a while. I have no clue how many I have, and I was totally fine not getting the sword. If I don't get the sword, I'll totally be fine with it. I'm not worrying about whether or not I'm actually going to earn enough doubloons. Until then, I will just continue to play the game the way I normally do. And if I hit the 50,000, cool. If not, no skin off my back. I didn't focus on it, and I don't plan to focus on it for the sake of collecting the sword. That was for folks who have actually been focusing on that. So not too worried about that. So this was interesting. I didn't notice this. I actually went to go check real quick, but I noticed that there are a couple new achievements. And actually, let me open up Steam as well, because I want to see if these have crossed over. I'm pretty sure they're across Steam. They may actually be trophies. I am not going upstairs to boot up my PlayStation to check and actually see if these are on there either. So if they are, they are. If they aren't, they aren't. I am not putting in the like, look, I'm over 40. I'm not going to sit here and be like, all right, yeah, let's definitely go upstairs. Let's force ourselves to walk up the stairs to go check something that will most likely actually be present. And I don't necessarily actually have to check for this, but I'm sitting here now. I can actually go check and see with Steam and with Xbox if this is the case. Go all the way down. The number of completions, the percentage of completions for some of these is dangerously low. I'm not going to lie. A lot of these are just things that people have not actually done. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So there are, what is this? 1, 2, 3. It looks like 3 new achievements. One of them is for during a faction battle, indulge in too many tankards of grog. One of the other ones is sail 100 nautical miles with a chest of sorrow aboard your ship. And one of the other ones is detonate a gunpowder keg, a stronghold gunpowder barrel, and a black powder barrel at the same time, which, I mean, it's fine with me. I think each one of those is interesting and unique. I like those kind of commendations. I don't necessarily like the drinking too much tankard thing, but I think I think if you're on a galleon and you drink a whole bunch, you could have one person kind of be like the person who does it for that fight, and they can be bilged for a while until they sober up. The quicker thing to do, I think, actually would be to start a battle, drink a bunch of grog, and use a blunderbomb to kill yourself, and then sail around a little bit until your partner comes back, and then re-engage. That would probably be the easiest way to go about it. So that way you don't have to impact the actual fight nearly as much as just trying to do it throughout the actual match. Or here's a fun thing. Lose one and just spend that one drinking. And that way it doesn't matter. You can just get that done. Lose one battle, just drink a bunch, and wake up in the tavern. That probably would actually work out better. But those are the 3 new commendations that are out. And it was one of those things. I think Caleb was actually messaging me because he was talking about the fact that some of the dive to commendations are actually a fairly low percentage. And I wanted to take a look at some of these because I think he's not wrong with some of these. So let me see where I can find if the percentage is the same across Steam as it is with the actual Xbox version of that. Because this is one of those things where it's odd that players are not using the Dive 2 system, because I don't think that this commendation is hard to do, especially. So I'm looking at like let's see, Voyager of the Bones, unlocked last year. Only 0.92% have done this, and even more so, like Bony Bodyguard. You've earned the commendation Bony Bodyguard, which I think is just to go and actually dig up bones on each of the different seas and complete a voyage. Only 0.31% have actually completed that. But let me take a quick look and see if I can find that Voyager of Bones. Yeah. So interesting. The percentages are different across Xbox as well as Steam. So they may be independent numbers, because Voyager on the Bones for Steam is at 1.7% completion for players with this achievement. Whereas with Voyager of the Bones, it is only 0.92% complete. So I don't know if they necessarily match up. Maybe they are independent player bases, in which case that says a lot about playtime, because playtime is very different for me on Steam versus Xbox. Steam, I've only got, what is this, a little over 1,000 hours logged on here. But I have a lot more on like my Xbox account, and I have no clue what my PlayStation account is. It's probably like still double digits, to be perfectly honest, because I rarely ever play on my PlayStation. But that's one of those things. It's like, now I'm kind of wondering, maybe more and more people are actually doing this, but for whatever reason, the commendations register differently on the different ecosystems. And that doesn't even take into account the fact that I think, BattleNet has its own that doesn't even have that kind of like information there. The Steam version of Merchant Voyager, which, if you guys don't know, Merchant Voyager is the one to complete 250 Alliance voyages. That is at 0.6% of players have this achievement. Whereas if you go look at the Xbox version, it's only at 0.02%, which is significantly lower than the Steam version, which from my perspective says that there's a lot more people trying to complete achievements on Steam than there are on Xbox, or Xbox just has significantly more casual people on it than there are for Steam, which is very interesting. I don't know, and I think this might actually come down to the fact that Sea of Thieves is part of Game Pass, and Game Pass is something that anyone that has Game Pass has access to it, but they might not necessarily want to have purchased it. Whereas Steam is a very specific player base. That is a player base that intentionally purchased Sea of Thieves. There's no way to get Sea of Thieves for free on Steam unless it's gifted to you, at which point you are purposefully getting this game to play it, as opposed to with Game Pass, you have access to it. You could pop in whenever you want. You could stream it. You could cloud stream it and not ever have to install it. And that would add to the percentage of unlocks. So I don't know. It was an interesting point that he brought up that I just remembered. So that's just one thing that doesn't even pertain to season 19. One of the other things I think I'm going to dive into is the 8th anniversary. So if you guys don't know, from March 19th to March 30th, you have an opportunity to log into the game, and you'll be able to get the Golden Sailor figurehead, which is freely available. You also get the early login bonus too, which, if you guys forget, every time you log into the game at the beginning of a season within that first week, you actually get that login bonus. And I believe, now I'm actually trying to remember, do you still get the Voyage of Luck? I can't remember if that's actually something that still happens. I'm going to boot up the game. I'm going to take a look, because I can't remember, because we're not going to have Twitch drops this weekend. They're actually coming next weekend for Twitch drops. So just be aware of that. But I think you still get the early login bonus. This weekend, all the way up until the 24th, you're actually going to be able to play Sea of Thieves for free, which was kind of nice if you had an opportunity to check that out. Also, those of you who are on Xbox or have access to Xbox, there is going to be a lustrous login or things you can get. The sails, the flag, and the Eye of Reach are available to claim through Microsoft Rewards and Game Pass in-game benefits. As far as I've been told, you only need to have the base version of Game Pass to be able to get access to the in-game perks, where you'll get the code to be able to actually redeem the crossbow. Or if you use your Microsoft reward points to purchase ancient coins, you'll be able to get the lustrous sails with that. I actually can't remember how you get the flag. I think the flag, let me take a quick look at here and see. Nope, I didn't actually want the video for this. I wanted the actual article. Thank you though, Link. I appreciate that. While I look that up, it is nice to see that there's really not too much left for the Golden Sailor stuff. I was putting it on my ship earlier to be able to take a look at that, and I was actually kind of surprised. I think the wheel and there's one other thing, technically a sail. There's not technically a Golden Sailor sail, but there is like the reward for the captain chest sails. There's the Reaper Mark 1. There's the red Reaper Mark 1 that they did a while back as well too, for I think it was like the 40,000. Or no, it was, oh gosh, it's been so long. See, this is what happens when you cover something for 8 years. You don't quite remember how things go, but it's nice to see that the actual like Golden Sailor set, for all intents and purposes, is actually getting to be a little bit closer to being completely complete, which is a weird way to kind of say that. But I'm glad that they're doing that, because it was something that I think a lot of people enjoy. I think a lot of people like the fact that it is just very basic, especially with the cannons. Personally, I know a lot of people prefer to have the base cannons. And unfortunately, that's one of those things that it really bothers me to have like base things when I've spent so many years collecting really good cosmetics. I like to have cosmetics on the ship that are unique. But I understand, like, at least with the Golden Sailor set, you can actually have like those Golden Sailor, what's it called? The Golden Sailor cannons, and still be able to get access to that. So I appreciate from that aspect of it. I did check, the Lustrous Legend flag is done by completing a punch card, which will also give you additional bonus entries to the Microsoft Rewards total prize drop that's going on currently, which is, I think, like a $2 million prize drop. But that's one of those things. If you're looking to try and figure out how to get the flag, you go into the Microsoft Rewards, you activate the punch card, complete all the activities in the Lustrous Legend punch card, and then redeem the actual flag itself. For that, all you have to do, it looks like, is set sail by going to, let's see, you have to go to the official site. You have to use Bing on desktop to search for something on 7 different days. You have to wait 24 hours. You also have to do 7 searches on Bing for mobile, on their mobile app. And those have to be 24 hours apart as well. And then you can go ahead and claim that. You have currently 100 days to complete this. So 14 total days on, or 7 days total if you do desktop search and mobile search. You can get it done in a week. You'll get the flag. It's not that bad. You just have to be able to go to the website as well too, and you have to log in. Let's see, learn about, yeah, just go ahead and complete it by going to the website, which very straightforward. So realistically, use use Bing on phone and on desktop for a week, and you'll be able to get the flag to go along with the sails that have recently come out, and then that crossbow Eye of Reach, which is a reskin of one of the Emporium sets as well too. Speaking of Emporium, the Black Witch set came out. I didn't realize, I guess it really didn't dawn on me that the Spirit of the Black Witch ship collection was going to come into the game at the beginning of the season. There's the 8 weapon set that has like all of the weapons. I'll be honest, the only one that even looks interesting to me is the sword and the blunderbuss. The Eye of Reach is kind of all the other ones are kind of but the blunderbuss and the sword are probably the 2 that I think are the most interesting looking because of the most piratey. But it's a very Gold Hoarders motif, very gold and green theme. Yeah, the whole set it looks like a slight variant on the Eastern Winds set. If I'm being blunt, it looks a lot like the Eastern Winds set, especially with the capstan and the what's it called, capstan and the wheel. The figurehead's nice. The collector's figurehead less so. I don't know. It's one of these things. I get the intent behind it. They want to celebrate their IP. I just don't. I'm not sure that I'm really in for it. But I will say, if you are in for something, they do have the Help Me emote for free on the Emporium, which is stupid looking, and I really dislike it. It does not convey help me in any way, but if you want to do that, you can always grab that for free. Might as well. They have rock, paper, scissors emotes available on the Emporium as well, which you can choose one of the 3, or you can go random. That's on sale, or that's not on sale. That's available for $5. There are the Warbirds pet bundle as well too. So if you want to have a Reaper's Bones pet that has like a little skull, looks like a Cubone, which if you know the story behind what Cubones are and why they have the little skull on their head, it's kind of sad, but whatever. And then they have the Athena Fortune Warbird, which actually looks like it has like one of those hawk masks that are on top of it. It has a little plume feather on top. It's actually pretty nice. I like the way these look. I think they've done a good job with them. It's interesting that they're based on the fights, but yeah, those are what's kind of in the Emporium at the moment. New season, so new Plunder Pass. The new Plunder Pass itself has 750 ancient coin. It has the Kraken's Ruin Collector's figurehead, which is actually looks pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, it looks like a giant harpoon. You've also got the Kraken's Ruin Collector Sails, which are beautiful. The Kraken's Ruin Hull, which is really good looking. You have the cannons, which are amazing looking. I actually really love the way that those look. You got a cannon basically propped up on a Kraken's like skull. The figureheads, or no, I already talked about the figurehead. The capstan and the wheel are currently mislabeled, which QA, gotta love that QA. The image is the capstan, but it says Kraken's Ruin Wheel, and the wheel has the Kraken's Ruin capstan. So GG on QA for that one. Come on, guys, it's simple stuff. Just double check it. But anyway, that is already up. I've heard that the pass is going quick as a result of Hourglass fights during fight night when you have the double gold and double rep, which makes sense. And the normal run of cosmetics on the actual season pass or the Plunder Pass, the free tier, still has that 250 ancient coin and some pretty decent cosmetics. It looks like more of like a metal breastplate motif that they're going with this time, and I think it looks good. It's a wartime stuff, so I like it. I like what they're doing. I don't necessarily like the cannons at level 70, and I think that the peg leg and the hook are kind of bare bones. The headpiece at 80 is kind of meh, but I'm curious to look and see what the actual tattoo looks like at 84. And then you've got the main cosmetics on 90. The sails at 91 are nice. The sword at 96 is okay. The Pirate Legend sword at 100 is interesting. I would like to see that actually in game before I make judgment on that. But a whole bunch of new cosmetics. I think they've got some pretty good stuff. I'm going to be honest. If you didn't normally buy the season pass for Sea of Thieves, I would say that that's fine. But if you have any love for monsters or creatures or spooky stuff, this season definitely earns the thumbs up from me on the Kraken's Ruin stuff for the Plunder Pass, which we've got about 13 weeks in this season to complete, which hopefully should not be too hard for folks. But that's what's going on with there. Outside of that, in game, you've got the pink Resolute ship set that came out, which it's nice. I'm glad they put it in there. It's just another recolor with some slight decals on stuff to buy in the on the shipwright. I'm trying to think if there's something else that is going on. The Cake Hunt also returns to mark Sea of Thieves' latest anniversary once again with unique titles to earn by tracking down far-flung treats and solving the puzzle they present. So I didn't actually know about this, and I do now actually remember them talking about something being in the actual email that was coming out. So let me take a look at this email, see if they actually put something in there to kind of give players an idea. There is a Sea of Thieves confetti emote in the actual emo that came out. So like season 19 swings into action in Sea of Thieves. That email, there is an emote in there that you can redeem as a little token of our appreciation just for email subscribers. Enter the code on the Sea of Thieves website and enjoy flinging colorful confetti across your deck when you next set sail. So I'm actually going to do that right now before I forget, because I did actually do that. Let's see. I wonder if this code is just the same for everyone. If it is, I wouldn't be surprised, because it's just it's literally just the phrase. When you redeem this, you will get the reward redeem code. Okay, confetti emote, throw emote. Okay, so I don't know if this is something that's actually going to work for everyone, but if you do want to try it out, it's SOT-CONFETTI-EMOTE. SOT-confetti-emote. All you have to do is go to seaofthieves.com/redeem when you're logged in. Try that code and see if you can actually get access to it as well. I'm assuming it is the same across the board. So if you did miss out on actually signing up on the emails, hopefully this code will work for you. You know, I actually forgot what I was going into the game to actually check and see. I can't remember what it was. And that's always sad. So I don't remember what I was going to log into the game for, but I did log into the game anyway to check and see what was going on in there. And I wanted to remind you guys that there is the Midnight Prowler equipment and instruments now available. And that was something that I don't recall being in there. So that was kind of nice to see added to the game. The other thing that I noticed was that the season pass for Legends on the main free tier, when you hit, I just forgot what level it was. Let's see, what level is it? 50? I think it's 50. Yeah, because it's like it's the halfway point. When you hit level 50, you actually get access to a Dark Brethren mask, which is like a hooded mask with the Dark Brethren mask itself, which then reminded me that there's actually something going on with the Sea Dog Tavern. There's a door that's appeared to the entrance to the what's it called? The actual like place where Amaranta and DeMarco and Lissetti used to kind of hold meetings, I guess, in the Sea Dog Tavern when they would make decisions. That now has a door, and that door actually has a prompt. So I was actually kind of surprised to hear about this. I'm actually going to be heading out there now to go take a look and see if I can actually see it. But I pulled up someone, Godhammer had sent it to me, and someone else had sent it to me, that you can knock on the door and it doesn't give you a prompt or anything. It just has like 3 ellipses, and then it looks like nobody's here. But it definitely suggests that there's something going on with Sea Dog Tavern. Given that Duke has kind of come back to Sea of Thieves with the recreation of bilge rats in a sense, and they're bringing back the black market, which also, by the way, the smuggler trade route has moved, and I'm now searching on the map for where it's moved to. I don't actually see it on the map. That's weird. Did they not actually change it? I thought they were going to change it at the beginning of the seasons. They did change where the Chest of Fortune is. The Chest of Fortune is actually now going to be at the the Skeleton Fleet. What the hell is that thing called? I think it's the Skeleton Fleet. So the Fleet is now going on. So that's what was going on. And you can actually go and get the Chest of Fortune. The nice thing that I found out about was that the Chest of Fortune grades are going to be maxed at 10, which means there's a chance that I might actually be able to complete them. Now, much like Insiders, which if you haven't done, it's Sunday, you guys had the reset. Make sure you log in, get your new reset for Sea of Thieves Insiders to get your rewards. If you're behind on Fate of Fortune stuff, you'll eventually be able to catch up. They're sticking to 10 grades for now. We don't know if that's actually going to change in the future. It might change in the future, might not change in the future. But for the time being, at least you have some leeway to make up for lost time. The Fleef is one of the ones that I think is actually one of the easier ones to get the Chest of Fortune from, unless you're doing unless you're straight doing what was going on with the Reaper Fortresses and getting the max out that way. But nice to see. Oh, I remember what it was. I wanted to go see if I actually got a Voyage of Luck. Let's see. Discover voyages, special voyages, limited time. Yes, I did get a Voyage of Luck. Yeah, so you do get a Voyage of Luck still for logging in at the game. A lot of this stuff, unfortunately, it's stuff that you forget about. It's just stuff that happens, and it's exciting when you first get it, and then it becomes old hat, and you forget that that's a thing that's actually going to happen. So what I would recommend is definitely make sure you log in, get that login bonus, get the Golden Sailor figurehead, and actually get your Voyage of Luck. You never know, you might actually get a lucky one. So those are all some things that are kind of going on. But going back to the Sea Dog thing, I think they might actually be trying to resurrect the Sea Dogs in a way, with Last Ship Standing, with the Fallen Sea Dog jacket, with Buddy Boy, the Dark Lord Duke, making his way back into the Sea of Thieves with the Bilge Rats, coming back in full force with smugglers. I think they might try and actually bring back some of the arena characters and kind of go back to, honestly, what was some of the best times in Sea of Thieves, when you had a full-fledged cast of characters who were kind of like doing things around the world. That you just like, that was not a thing that really happened for the last few years. It's been pretty bare bones, which is disappointing, because Sea of Thieves has some of the best characters when it comes to story and games that I really love, and I love following their stories. So when that is no longer a thing, it's like, okay, well, that sucks. It'd be nice if that wasn't the case, but only so much you can do, I guess. Only so much you can do. I'd rather take bug fixes and quality of life changes if it meant that the game was going to be in a more stable state when I do actually go around and actually do stuff in the world. Because otherwise you're just kind of frustrated. And it doesn't matter how good the story is, if the game is not fun to play because it's consistently buggy, then you're not going to want to engage with that content. So we'll have to see about what's going on with that. I think that's about it as far as stuff that's stuff that I really want to dive into. You can't make any more bonus gold or reputation in the Roar now that the season 18 is over with. So any extra gold or reputation you were earning by turning into Morrow's Peak Outpost is completely done. So sorry about that. Yeah, they did actually. Here it's in the show notes, or not the show notes, it's in the patch notes. They actually talk about the smuggler route run has now shifted locations and directing crews between Plunder Valley and Crescent Isle, which, looking at the map, to be perfectly honest, it's not there. So either it's not working, or yeah, it says. and is marked on the map, ship's map, for all to see. Well, it definitely ain't. It definitely ain't there. I'm looking at the map right now, and sure as water is wet, that smuggler route is not there. So that's fun. That's fun. I think in the last 10 minutes, I've run into 2 bugs with, with the game. Oh, man. Things not representing properly in the Pirate Emporium, and the smuggler's route on the patch notes does not actually show up on the map in your boot. So yeah. Any rare devs listening to this, do I still need to put in a report, or does this count? Does this count as me reporting it? Please say it does. Please say I don't have to actually put in the report, because that would be kind of like, but let's see. Take a quick. I'm just going to scrub through the patch notes real quick, because I just want to see. Oh, actually, yeah, I did talk about Chest of Fortune. Let's see. Pirates taking on faction battles during Act 1 can earn a bonus to their season renown, and the War of the Flame painting by completing deeds, or completing the available deeds, which, if you guys don't know, found out this the other day when I was talking to Ern and Kylia, friends of myself in the show. They have done away with the standard seasonal deed system, and I feel like this actually happened a while ago. But the deeds are now tied to the actual acts, and I'm curious to find out like how that's going to change, if things are actually going to shift in the future away from acts, because right now those deeds are the things that kind of push your renown level. So if you aren't having acts, how does that factor into the deeds? Like, are there any deeds to go on with there? And then I think the one other thing that I wanted to address was, once again, we have another season where there are no emissary ledger rewards. There's no reason to engage with the emissary ledgers. There's no reason to raise a flag outside of reputation and gold. Another season where they are failing to update on already established systems that, for whatever reason, I don't know why, and I think maybe at this point it's just because they don't have stuff ready for it. But here we are, another season, another list of ledgers that have no represented updates in the game. Looking at gold hoarders, let's check Order of Souls just for kicks. We'll check Order of Souls. I actually have like 3rd tier in Order of Souls already. Yeah, the compass and the lantern were the last things that you could earn, and there's still nothing technically coming soon on those. So hopefully they change this. Hopefully they go back to actually putting stuff in the ledgers. It's very frustrating to have these systems kind of set up and then not continue forward with them. I can understand, like, if you set a commendation grade and you complete that, you're not expecting to actually see that. But these are seasonal renown ledgers. These things should be like on the list of things to keep up to date. And I don't know if it's just because they're offering too many types of cosmetics to too many different things. Like, they've got the Emporium, they've got the seasonal renown system, they've got 2 tiers there that they have to support. They have to support bringing more cosmetics to the actual outposts so that those don't feel stagnant. And they just don't have the time to be able to add stuff to the ledgers. But man, it's just, I don't understand. I would love to understand the why this isn't a priority. Not why there isn't stuff. I know why there isn't stuff. They don't have the time. They don't have the time, and they aren't focusing on that. They've got other fish to fry, and those fish are more important than the ledger system. People can use the ledger system as a way to catch up for other cosmetics that they may or may not have actually gotten. So I get it. I get the why. I just don't know why it's not a priority. Like, why is that not the case? And to be perfectly honest, if they wanted to increase the amount of renown that is required to complete the season pass to be able to justify that, or to get into those positions, I'd be fine with that as well too. I would totally be fine with that. It's not It's genuinely not like a big deal in my mind. It's just amount of time. But if the content is compelling and there's stuff to chase, then I don't see why not. All right, pirates. The last thing that I wanted to do besides messing up with my microphone is tell you about the Season 19 Community Weekend. That is going to kick off on the 27th and go to the 30th when we'll then get that community direct. It's going to be same thing that it usually is. So you're going to get the Twitch drops. You're going to get the pop-up plunder. You're going to have the picture wall. You're going to have the community emissary grade rewards to get the boosted gold and reputation during the weekend. They're also going to have a community spirit goal. If players collectively hand in enough bronze pondies to the Hunter's Call during the community weekend, the Meriden Hunter double barrel pit. Oh, are they doing this again? First, oh my gosh. Okay. Rare, stop trying to make fetch a thing. Okay. It's not going to happen. Nobody cares about the double barrel pistol and no one's going to fish for it. If we hit this community goal, it will be out of spite purely to get this out of the rotation so we can get to other community goal cosmetics. Because I think at this point, we are all kind of like, oh, you want us to fish for a double barrel pistol cosmetic? Okay. That's, that's a choice. Here's what we do. They say the cake hunt also returns to mark Sea of Thieves' latest anniversary once again with unique titles to earn by tracking down far-flung treats and solving the puzzle they present. Instead of doing the Meridian Hunter, I don't know why I was saying Meridian Hunter double barrel pistol, which is a mouthful all of it itself, by fishing up bronze pondies to turn into the Hunter's Call specifically, how about we go and gather stuff to actually like create a cake? Like, why not make cake a type of food that you can go and buy during this community season? Like have like on the anniversary, everyone goes to the merchants or goes to the tavern keep and you can go and buy like a limited number of cakes, 5 cakes, and each cake is worth one full, 3 pineapples. I don't care. Make up whatever you want. Like it's pineapples worth like 2 bites, full health. It's basically you can go and buy pineapples and just make that like an anniversary thing for like 2 weeks and say like, hey, we're doing the cake hunt. You can participate to get your puzzles. And those of you that don't want to have to lose your cake or want your cake and eat it too, you can go and buy 5 cakes from the tavern keep every session that you play. And each cake is equivalent of a pineapple and it looks like a cake. And you can then like hold up cake and eat cake, like that to me. And I'll make it even easier. Just use the slice, the meat pie slice that is a Kraken. Just reskin that and kill the overhealth on it, or don't. I don't care. Like go with that. Like I don't want to have to go fish up bronze pondies. That is not how I want to. And that is not how I envision wanting to spend my community weekend. We've got fight night weekend this weekend. We have community weekend next weekend. We have the weekend after, I believe, being the next fight nights. Like we have 3 weekends of double reputation available to us. And you're like, you guys want to go fish up some pondies? Not voyage related for any kind of commendations, but just for a community spirit goal. Because who doesn't love fishing for double barrel pistol cosmetics? Ooh-wee. But that's going on from the 27th through the 30th. Please hold off on getting the pitchforks. There's plenty of other things we can get pitchforks for, like a search function on the Emporium. We could do that. I don't know. Anyway, I think that is going to do it for this episode. I think that's all the weird stuff that came out. I'm trying to think if there's anything that, I almost forgot. Oh my gosh. They released a new dynamic background on the Xbox Series X and S systems, for Sea of Thieves for the anniversary. And I actually really like it. I actually think it looks pretty darn swell. And as a result of that, I'm very happy. I've typically, had a rotation between the original Xbox Sea of Thieves one that they put out a while ago, or the Cyberpunk 2077. I will now add this one to the list of rotations. Xbox, if you're listening, I would love it if there was a way to favorite some of these wallpapers and just have those rotate every time I boot up the console, just to be able to swap between them without having to physically actually go and do that myself. But if wishes were horses. But I think that is going to do it. I think that's everything. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that is pertinent enough that we can't cover in another episode. And I believe next episode is actually going to be the Gold Hoarder episode. So just a reminder, last Saturday of the month, where there's still a Monday, we always do the Gold Hoarder recording. So any of the folks that are in the Patreon at the Captain tier, you are more than welcome to join up to talk about Sea of Thieves. I would love to get some thoughts and some feelings for season 19 for the anniversary. So get those thoughts together. If you want to show up, definitely make sure you put some time in on the seas so you know what you're talking about. You guys have current knowledge, or at least like resemblance of current knowledge. No one coming in who hasn't played the game in the last 3 years, who just wants to come say hi. You can always do that any other time. We can always sit in a voice chat and chat if you want. But looking to get some thoughts and opinions on this current season and see what you guys think with the changes, with the fact that there's no commendations, but there's achievements. It's weird stuff. It's always weird. But I will say, just kind of shore up this so far. While I don't think that everything that Rare has done this anniversary is exactly what I would like to have done, they're still doing enough. They're still doing enough to where I feel like I'm happy that they've at least remembered anniversary, Golden Sailor stuff. Let's do some community weekends. The fixes to the actual Hourglass are good. I'm glad that they're doing fight nights. I would like for those fight nights to be more than just 2 weekends. I'd prefer it to just be a whole week, or at least one whole week during each month of this season, considering everything this season is literally just about fighting. And then we've got the Build Rat Weekender, which is not a weekender. It's a whole season act. It's a whole month that I don't have to get into that. We can get into that later when it actually kicks off. But for all intents and purposes, I'm glad that Rare is celebrating the game and continue to celebrate it, because this is like my main game next to World of Warcraft and Heroes of the Storm. When it comes to games I want to sit down to play, it is these three. And there's others mixed in there. But those are for other reasons. But those are the main 3 games that I like to spend time in. Those are my go-to chill games to just have fun and enjoy stuff. And hopefully the guy that I gave the crab firework to tonight is listening and knows that I really appreciated them not murdering me instantly when I happened upon the outpost, because I was just chilling. But that's going to do it for this episode, Pirates. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. I hope you guys have had a fantastic weekend. Make sure you're being good to yourself. Make sure you're being good to others. Try to be the representation of the pirate community that you want to see out there. And cheers to Rare for another year of Sea of Thieves. With that, Pirates, thank you. I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.